What's up, everybody, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Jesse Marsch and Charlie Davies. And Charlie is our Average to Good hold-up player on the show. And we have a great show for you guys today. Like always, we're excited to get into it. We're talking Americans abroad, of course. We're going to talk about our nailed-on picks, our automatic locks for this upcoming Nations League roster and potentially spilling into the Copa America roster as well. Sergiño Dest made some comments about Barcelona and how he's never going to go back and play for Xavi again. I'm paraphrasing, but that's kind of the tone that I picked up on when he made his comments. We'll get into that. And, of course, any fallout from the U.S. men's national team versus Slovenia. That's above and beyond what we did for our special podcast, reaction podcast. But first, as we do on this show, we're going to get into our Call It What You Want word of the day, because we know the game is known by so many different things around the world: soccer, football, fuchiball, foosball, all that good stuff. So, boys, here is the word of the day, and I had to write it out so I say it correctly. Here it is. This I need to know what language this is in. Ball cache. Ball cache. Ball cache.
Ball cache. Am I first, Jimmy?
We need buzzers. Sure, go ahead. Okay. Jesse Marsch, take us away.
Ball cache sounds somewhat Spanish. I'm going to go with somewhere in South America. I'm going to go Venezuela.
Venezuela. Okay. I'm just going to go out on a limb.
I think you're way off. Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're way off.
I'm just going to say football. To me, maybe ball cache.
Yeah.
What about you, Chuck?
To me, that sounds real Turkish.
Okay. Ooh.
So I'm going to go in that region. And
okay.
Middle East.
I'm going to go with, it could be Syria, it could be Iraq, Syria. See, I see I'm getting good vibes here. My final answer.
Well, I have some clues, but go ahead, give us your first.
No,
he needs an answer.
Yeah, I need an answer.
All right, I'll give you an answer. I'm gonna go ball cache. Iran.
Okay, you guys are both incorrect. First clue. Real Madrid lost the 1982-83 UEFA Cup Winners' Cup to a team from this country. Second clue. Zinedine Zidane, to keep it in with Real Madrid. Zinedine Zidane scored the only goal, a spectacular volley, in the 2002 Champions League final in this country.
Germany.
This was Istanbul, no?
Oh, in this country.
In this country.
Ooh.
I'll let you guess.
The greatest goals of all time, by the way.
Okay, I remember that's against Leverkusen. That's why I say it's Germany. So he scored that goal against Bayern.
Where
Leverkusen.
was that game?
And that game, I'm not typing. I think. I know it's on the tip of my damn tongue. It is in Azerbaijan.
Jesse, do you want to chime in on that before I say?
Turkey,
listen. I know you were in college back in 82, 83, so maybe you're watching.
I mean, those were the college days. It was like Animal House.
It could be Turkey.
Animal House at Princeton University.
Animal House.
Yeah, Turkey. I'll go Turkey. I'll go with Charlie.
Turkey, Azerbaijan. Incorrect. So the stadium for the 82-83 final was Hampton Park.
Was what park?
Hampton Park.
That's Scotland.
It's Scotland, and the language is Scottish Gaelic. Ball cache. You guys both missed it. Ball cache.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of got it at the end. I'll take it. I'll take it.
You get the point. I played at Hampton Park once. It was a 1-1 draw.
All right. I did my UEFA course there.
So, Chuck, you've had a day to sit with your emotions, your feelings from the U.S. men's national team performance against Slovenia. And do you feel any different other than you just want all 90 minutes of your life back from that?
I never felt that way, to be honest. I knew what to expect coming into it. This group is far from the first team, right? So this was more of inexperienced young Olympic team. It's basically that sprinkled in with a few veterans, not international veterans for the most part. So you know, I was hoping to see some players step up being in that atmosphere. And I think unlikely heroes came to be in terms of Esmir Bayraktarovic, who was someone who I think caught everyone's eye in terms of what he can be in the future, because he has, you know, those intangibles you can't teach, the confidence, the 1v1 dribbling ability. You know, he took the impetus to come in and make a difference. So I was very pleased with that. You know, it was a difficult game to watch if you're just looking at a result and you're looking at players to perform and the team performance. But ultimately, it's kind of exactly what I expected. So no harm done, Jimmy. This question's for both of you, Jesse, I guess in particular. If it is mostly a under 23 camp, then why not start Duncan Ferguson? Why not start
Duncan McGuire? Duncan Ferguson. I mean, he's like.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be pretty damn good. Why not start Duncan McGuire? Why not start Esmir Bayraktarovic? Or maybe, I mean, but why not play mostly in the under 23 side if that's basically what we're looking at?
Well, I think it was a little of both. I think there are some players that are on the fringe of potentially making a 26-man roster, whether it be Copa America or the World Cup. And here's was when I reflect on it even more, here's what is even more disappointing for me, is we are going to be playing the World Cup at home, right? And now we have a chance, and I don't care who the team is, but when we have professionals who've been called into the national team and are representing the national team, the jersey, the country, like as just the starting baseline, right? It should be about competing, going after the game, inspiring the country to believe that we're going to have a team on the pitch in 2026 that's going to compete and do everything we can to try to go as far in the tournament, and why not compete for a title or big moments. And the saddest thing, and by the way, those moments don't come very often. There's not like we're going to have all these games in the lead up, like, you know, hundreds of games in the lead up to the World Cup. We have 20 games at home, maybe in the lead up to the World Cup. And we've got to take advantage of everyone and make sure that we inspire the American community to believe in this team at the highest level. And for me, at the end of it, this was too much about what the tactics and the soccer was, and not enough about what the national team should be, must be. That is about inspiring people through the way we play and who we are with what we think of the sport. And it was, again, it's another opportunity missed. And that's what we need right now. I mean, we have to build momentum so that come 2026, we are selling out stadiums. We have people that are inspired and excited and ready to support this team with everything they have. And again, the more moments that we have like this as a team, the further and further, or the harder and harder it's going to be to capture the hearts and minds of our people when it comes 2026.
Hey, Charlie, if I would have heard that in an interview process, I think I hired Jesse Marsch. I'm just throwing that out there. I was a pretty fired up, let's go, I'm going to run through a brick wall for this guy. So your issue then, Jesse, is more with the tactics then because it in some ways, if I'm reading between the lines, it's like the players maybe had some handcuffs on them until later on when you had a couple players who are like, whatever, we're just going to go out there and try to do the best we can.
Screw the philosophy. I'm just going to do my thing.
Listen, for me, the one of the worst words in our sport is tactics, right? It's like when every coach, when something goes wrong, he'll fall back on tactics or we'll use this word tactics, and let's substitute it with strategy. Okay. And when you go into any match, you have to have a strategy about what you want to be and how you want to perform and what the common idea of the way you want to play the game is. And you have to understand what the opponent's way of playing or strategy is going to be. And then you have to make sure that during the game, you find a way to make sure that the game is more on your terms and you're doing the things that you want to do more than what the opponent does. And again, when I look at that game was played almost entirely in Slovenia's terms, right? And they were perfectly happy with allowing us to pass the ball around the back and put together 10 passes going sideways and backwards. They never were threatened by anything there. And we never really imposed our will upon the game with what we were doing with the ball, with how we were running, with how we were connected. And then again, I mean, I could go on with a lot of different ways of describing this, but in the end, it was a dispassionate performance that was focused too much on where to pass the ball. That's the way I feel about it.
I think there were moments, and we talked about it in our podcast before about the game in particular, where you saw flashes of that, but it was that consistency of that mentality and that mindset that I think, to your point, was a little disappointing. For me, on the defensive side of it, I always thought, why are we dropping so deep? Like, why aren't we getting after these guys?
Yeah,
you know, whether it's a high up the field in the mid block or even in the low block, like just get after these guys. Like there was, I was missing a little bit of that, you know? So I agree with you on that.
And just to kind of go off on it, because I see Ivis like, oh, it's mostly an under 23 camp. No, it's not, because DeJuan Jones starts and Shaq Moore starts, and those both aren't under 23 age.
Brian
so
White starts.
What could have, but I'm saying even from the back to the front, you had an opportunity to play Caleb Wiley, who you liked a little bit. Just he's different, pacey, he can play left back, more advanced. John Tolkien. So I was thinking it's whoever's going to play more as a left back in that position is probably in Gregg Berhalter's mind and Marco's mind that they are the first choice of the two for that left back spot. So we didn't even really get a chance to see that. Tolkien came in, but he obviously didn't have his shooting boots on, good positioning, but not sharp with the ball. Okay. And Caleb Wiley, same thing, looked pretty good, but it was such a short stint that you can't really make anything of it. And then Shaq Moore on the other side, yeah, he was in advanced positions, but that's ultimately taking away a spot from someone that you really want to see. You know what Shaq Moore is about. You know what he's good at, his strengths are. Yeah. You know what his weaknesses are. They were on full display in this game, and it's the end product. And some of it is the one-on-one defending. But obviously, Slovenia wasn't even interested in putting pressure on them like that because they were just playing direct. They'd sit back, win it, and go forward. So you could have easily played DeJuan as the right back and then Tolkien or Wiley. And then obviously Timothy Tillman is also not under 23. So you miss an opportunity to play someone there. And I get it. You want to mix it with old and young, but you have one player, and that's all. The one player you need that's over 23, and that's Miles Robinson. And you let the rest of the kids play, right? And Brian White obviously up top. So for me, it is not anywhere near an under 23 team, which you could have had, which you really would have, I think, tested those guys a lot more, not only for the Olympics, but for the future. And Esmir and Diego Luna are the only two that showed you something. And it wasn't like mind-blowing, but they showed you something that, okay, I'm intrigued. I'd like to see more of those players at this level. So that's my point, is I would have liked to see more under 23s tested in this environment, because then, to your point, Jesse, I think we're getting more pressure. We're getting more advanced. Guys are probably going to be more apt to try and be a little bit daring and show the energy in terms of, instead of just sitting back, slow, side to side, and not very enticing and aggressive.
Yeah, still a lot to talk about with this game. I didn't realize we were going to get into it that much, but hey, that's why we're having the show.
We keep unpacking.
We keep unpacking. There's a lot of layers here. Back like an onion. All right, we're going to take our first break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to get into our locks for the Nations League. Who should automatically be on this roster? We all put our names together. We don't know who said what, and then we'll come back and reveal that for everybody. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Average to Good, Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Chuku and Jesse Marsch. Chuku's a shout out to a word of the day from, I don't know.
South Korean.
We're just making sure you guys are listening to all of our shows or watching all of our shows, and we appreciate your support, of course. But now let's get into it. Our locks for the Nations League roster, which is happening in March, and we're excited to get into it. Now, it's a 23-man roster, but here are 13 names. We came together on 13 names. We have Matt Turner, which is looking shakier by the game. Chris Richards, Tim Ream, who's hurt right now, Sergiño Dest, Anthony Robinson, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Gio Reyna, Timo Weah, Christian Pulisic, Ricardo Pepi, Flo Balogun, and Malik Tillman are our 13 locks. So that means there's 10 spots up for grabs That's a little more than I had anticipated. I threw over a roster like 22 to Des, but apparently you guys just went with who you thought for sure.
Well, Chuck, what did you put? Like 3 guys on there?
Yeah, Chuck. Who are your locks, Chuck?
Chuck put on 3 players.
Come on now. All right, my locks.
Locks.
Turner, goal. And the only person in goal.
The only one. Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Dest, Scally, right backs, locked. Richard.
Scally.
Scally.
Wait, so say it like this. Let's give everybody a framework. Are you trying to give 2 players per position? Is that kind of how you're approaching this?
No. I'm just giving you locks.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with how many per
Stop
position.
yelling at me. Okay,
Yeah.
I got it.
No. Okay. Here we go. So yeah.
I could see Scally, but I don't have him on my list.
Okay.
I have Scally on mine.
I think he's 100% a lock. Just given he's playing.
He can play both sides.
Back playing both sides, but also his performance in the Nations League final against Canada, having to step up for Sergiño in his suspension was fantastic, playing against Alphonso Davies. So I think it's just an automatic. Chris Richards and Tim Ream, locks. Anthony Robinson, lock. McKennie, Musa, lock.
Wait a second. What about Carter Vickers? Carter Vickers.
CCV's in mine. I think if he's healthy, he's in for sure.
Yeah, I don't know where he is with his health. That's the only thing. So
okay,
I didn't have
he's
him
close
as
to getting
lock.
back. Yeah, I mean, I didn't put Tyler Adams because Tyler has a long-term injury, and when he comes back, how he comes back is still, I think, a question mark. But
exactly.
I think CCV is not out as long, and I think he will get himself healthy and be ready to go. Yeah.
I would agree with you that with him being a lock as well.
Who's CCV?
And what about Miles Robinson? Miles Robinson is not a lock for you?
You know, he's not 100% a lock for me.
Okay. So that means you have Ream. Ream's not healthy right now either. So
right.
There's a possibility that he might not be available. But if you're saying that Ream and Richards would be your starting center backs, then
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I can see that.
Okay.
And then you have CCV and Miles,
and then that's the fourth
McKenzie
spot. I think it's pretty open. I mean,
I'm seeing McKenzie linked to Leeds right now.
Mark is playing a lot, and I think this year was super important for him. But again, it's just that getting over that curve, the hump, because it seems like every time he gets a chance with the first team, it goes to being nervous. And he's not playing like himself, and the decision making on the ball is always the safe option. And I just feel that he hasn't been able to adjust yet with the first team. And I'll always say, once you get your club football right and you're playing consistently, it just makes it that much easier for you to transition into the U.S. men's national team, and that usually is how it works. And I think for McKenzie, it's kind of been starting one game, off the one game, maybe start 3, on the bench for 3. And so it's been pretty inconsistent. And now he's starting to get consistent minutes at the club level, being a consistent starter. And I think that will help him with that transition. So I think he's in the mix. I think Austin Trusty's in the mix, who's been playing consistently for Sheffield United, even though they're not great. I think he's really stepped up in that back line and been somebody who's more consistent than not on that team.
Okay, Jesse, give us. So you said you didn't have Tyler in the team. Who are your holding midfielders? Like, who are your locks then? If
I tell you, I switched today because I was watching the Betis Barcelona game, and Yanni Cardoso had a really, really good match, and it was 2-2 when they took him off, and that's when Barcelona really, I thought, got more control of the match. So I think they need another defensive-minded midfielder, so I wind up putting him in, and I'm excited to see the possibility of what he can become. I went with a player not known as Yusuf Musa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not the twin.
By the way, thanks guys last time for helping me out with that.
Sorry, it's our bad.
I mean, we did it at the end.
I mean, obviously we know he can play as a double 6. So, I mean, him and Cardoso, if Tyler's not available, this could be a possibility.
Right.
Then I went with McKenzie and Reyna. I still had Brenden Aaronson. I still had Brenden Aaronson. And McKennie. Yeah, I said McKennie.
You said McKenzie, so I just want to make sure.
McKennie. And so I also had Brenden Aaronson in. So
as a lock.
Yeah. because of his past performances with the national team. And even though he's not playing much with Union Berlin, I think they need him in the team. I think they need his ability and his experience. And I know he's not at his best right now, but I still think I'd bring him in.
I agree with you about Brenden Aaronson. I think that he has a player profile that might be just slightly different than what we currently have. And he's an energizer bunny, right? He just continues. He's so relentless in his movements that there could be a time where that becomes advantageous. And I just think it forces things to happen. They might not always be exactly what you want to happen, but he forces action, especially in the attacking third. So I do think that spirit in particular, and I just think he's a good character to have within the team and has a tremendous attitude. You would know better than most, Jesse. So I think that he should. I think he's a lock for sure.
Charlie, did you guys have anyone else?
Yeah, so I had Weah, Reyna, Tillman, Malik Tillman. I think he's a lock. Yeah, Reyna's a lock. Yeah, and then obviously Pulisic, Balogun, Pepe. That was the remainder of my locks. And I love the Cardoso shout out because
Cardoso is a mine. Yeah.
Cardoso is a baller, and I think he's only just getting started as he continues to grow. And Betis is obviously a strong team in La Liga. Yep. But after Nations League, I think if you're looking at Copa America, even though he fits the profile of what you'd want at Copa America, if he's not going to start, I would rather, since he is an Olympic age player, I'd rather him go to the Olympics.
Cardoso.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where he'll play every game.
I know, but I think if he's establishing himself, he's going to play a role in one of the, whether it's off the bench or, with if they can advance themselves, or if they do well in the first couple matches and they need someone to provide some minutes, I think he's got to be available for the team in Copa America. Berhalter, I think, has to be treating Copa America like this is a big tournament for him and for the team. So for me, the Olympic team has to be a side factor. They have to focus on exactly what they need to be successful down in that match, in that tournament.
I would say De La Torre is going to be in the mix if we look at his current form. Yeah. Going assist midweek, and also just another player profile that is a little bit in contrast to some of the other guys that we have.
Fair enough. And I picked him as my player this week, and so I watched both matches he played, and he scored a good goal, and he had two good performances, and so he's now become a big player at Celta Vigo. So I think that's
another player
enough.
too, Josh Sargent. I think he's done enough. No, to get into this team. I'd like to see him again, be around the group. He's back and healthy. He was a lock for me. I don't know how you guys feel about Josh Sargent. Chuck, you go first as our resident number 9.
I'd be willing to say when he's in form, he's number 3. So I have no issue with that.
Even though he'd be starting and getting more minutes than Ricardo Pepi. I mean, listen, I've nothing but respect for Ricardo Pepi, who's had to fight and fight for minutes, for club and country.
Jim, the easy answer is yes.
I know he's serious, Jesse, when he calls me Jim.
Jim.
James.
Remember, Ricardo Pepi, he's in a difficult situation. He's behind the club captain, Luc de Jong.
I get it.
This is a Dutch international. And when he's played, he's made an impact. I mean, the guy scoring in Champions League, creating goals in Champions League, that counts. Major props to Pepe. And then, not to mention that, he came in the Nations League and he scores off the bench, right? So this is a player who shows he's ready for the moment. He's growing and he's got the right mentality. So that
fair enough.
He's number 2.
Charles. Fair enough, Charles.
And Charles, Chuku Charles Chuckwagon. And listen, Ivis makes a good point here in our little chat that Balogun starts. He's going to be the starter, and Pepe.
By the way, Balogun played also on the wing this week.
So
Yetter played up top, and they slid Balogun a little bit more to the right.
There's no plot twist because Balogun ain't playing on the wing for this USMNT national team. I know that right now.
I triggered Chuku over there. I got him.
Yeah, you know how to trigger me. I'll tell you that.
I love that. All right, we're gonna take our second break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to get into Americans abroad and obviously looking forward as well for some notable fixtures and our players of the week. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So come back and join us. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy alongside Jesse and Chuck, and we are getting into it. Americans abroad. But before we get into performances that just happened, we want to give a shout out to Christian Pulisic, who was just named as the U.S. Soccer Male Player of the Year for the 4th time. He's won it in 2017, 2019, and 2021. He's now tied Landon Donovan for the all-time record. So that's pretty cool. Good for him. He's only 25 years old. He led the team in goals and assists, the U.S. men's national team, that is, this particular season, off to a great start with AC Milan. So that's who we all voted for as well in our make-believe Call It What You Wanties, the Wanties. And then for the Young Player of the Year, it was Kevin Paredes, who ends up winning the award over Benya Kramaski and Gianluca Busio. So congrats to him, obviously breaking into the Wolfsburg first team, playing well at the U20s, getting his first caps and making an impression with the U.S. men's national team. And fun fact, Jesse Marsch had him as one of his locks for his roster. Unbelievable. Yes. Well, give us a little bit more about Paredes. What makes him special for you, Jesse? Well,
I think he's a perfect player to bring off the bench, right? Dynamic. He can 1v1. He's a sprinter. A lot of good things he could bring to an open match. So, that he for me fits a really good category for someone when you're even. I think he'd be best when you have the lead, right? To put him on the pitch and have him defend a little bit and work against the ball. And when you win balls, be in transition, he could be super effective in that way. So yeah, I have him in the squad.
You heard it here first. When Jesse gets back into it, he's going to be signing Paredes in the near future. I'm just throwing that out there. All right. Notable results. Matt Turner conceded 3 goals in Forest's 3-2 defeat to Brentford. Luca de la Torre scored an assist in a Copa del Rey win over Valencia. Josh Sargent opens the scoring in Norwich's 2-0 win over West Brom and Daryl Dike. He came on as a second-half sub. Sergiño Dest provided the game-tying assist. They were leading 1-0 a couple minutes in their 1-1 draw against Utrecht. PSV's 17-game winning streak comes to an end. And Johnny Cardoso, we talked about him a little bit earlier, makes his Betis and La Liga debut in a 4-2 defeat to Barcelona. But as Jesse said a little bit earlier, it was 2-2 when Cardoso got subbed off, and then it ended up 4-2. Was that the reason? We're going to say yes, absolutely. So let's get into our 3 players that we're paying attention to. Chuck, we haven't heard from you yet in this segment. Who is your player that really stood out for you over this week or weekend?
It would be Weston McKennie. I don't think we do. I don't think we give him enough credit because we hold him to a higher standard. You know, we hold him to the Christian Pulisic standard in terms of what we expect from him every match. And you know, it's this season he has revitalized himself. And I think when you talk about a player playing with purpose in the midfield and earning the trust of a manager like Allegri, which takes some doing, he's done that. This is his 13th straight 90-minute appearance in Serie A for Juve this season. So that's incredible. I mean, the last match he missed because of yellow card suspension, and he still plays and he still gets 90 minutes the following match. So he had an assist today. Should have been a goal. Vlahovic just nicked it before it was about to cross the line. So in terms of his performance, I thought he was fantastic. 3 for 3 on his tackles, 3 recoveries. He had 83% passing percentage, which is good. It could be better, but ultimately I really liked his influence in the game. He was arguably the best player on the pitch behind Vlahovic, who scored 2 goals today. But a really impressive performance from him, and I just love how he has matured into this player who gets it in terms of the balance of making it fun, enjoying the game, and also getting the most of yourself, being serious and knowing when to be serious versus knowing how to lift guys around you and how he attracts people to him because of his personality. So I love the fact that he's thriving. He deserves it. He's obviously had to work really hard to get to where he is. So I mean, Jesse, you have to be thrilled given how things kind of didn't go well for him with the loan to Leeds and in the build up to the loan to Leeds, and he goes back and he realizes it's do or die at this point. You either have to, it's sink or swim, and he's obviously swimming.
Yeah, it was a shame that I only had him for a week because I had big plans and intentions to help him grow as a person and as a player. And what you talked about there, I think, is the key with Weston is we all know he has a big personality, and that's always a positive. But how to use it in a way so that it makes him a better professional and it makes him a better player. And so I'm happy to see him playing well, like you've said. And yeah, I think we talk about him enough, and I think we respect him a lot, and I think we need him. We all know we need him. So yeah, I'm really happy for him that he's found his way in Juventus again, and that he's performing maybe the best in his career. I agree with you.
Yeah, I like that word influencing that you used, Chuck, that he was one of the most influential players on the field. And I think that's the highest praise you can give someone, that if you took him off, you would notice that they weren't there. I mean, his presence is really driving Juve this particular season. I agree with Jesse. This is probably the best I've seen him play consistently over his career. It's a really long stretch where he's had a lot of impact and influence on a very big club over in Europe. So it's very exciting. Now, Jesse, how about you? Who's your player that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I already said Luca de la Torre, and I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. And I feel like we haven't talked about Luca at all. And he's established himself as an important player with Celta Vigo. In the cup match they had against Valencia, they won 3-1. He scored the first goal, a clever little goal. Flick off of a corner kick. And then he winds up making a really influential play to put a good cross in so that they seal the game at 3-1, and they move on in Copa del Rey. So that was an important match. And then they played against Real Sociedad in the league on the weekend yesterday. And he had a good match as well in that game. And they were a little bit unlucky. Brais Mendez scored a great goal, and he got around Luca de la Torre a little bit on that play, but there wasn't much he could do. And he hit one from like 40 in the corner. But we know Sociedad's such a good team, and the game was dynamic. And, you know, they've used him on the left a little bit in a 4-2-3-1, and they play compact. So he doesn't play like a full-on winger. He still gets to play like an interior midfielder, and he finds the ball, and he's very responsible defensively too. He does the job on whoever he's playing against. In transition, he's not the most dynamic player, but he gets himself on the ball a lot and usually keeps the ball and helps make good decisions to help set up plays in the attacking third. So I think he can be you talk, Jimmy, that you had him in the roster, and I can see why, and I can accept that. I think that he deserves to be there. And I'm, again, I think to establish yourself, even if Celta Vigo's not having the best season, the fact that you're in La Liga playing regularly, I think that's a big statement for an American player. So yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, I love that shout. I am going to go to England and get into the championship and talk about Josh Sargent. He's got 1 goal in his last 3 games, but Norwich, who are now 8th, so only a couple points out of a playoff spot to get back into the Premier League. He's got a goal, and he's been active, and he had the game winner against West Brom this particular weekend. And I really loved, in particular, the details of how he created this goal in himself. Another player did the work, won the ball in midfield, and had good presence of mind to kind of wait for things to develop. But while that was happening, Josh does an excellent job of looping his run to create the passing lane, to get himself in a good spot so that ball could be played to him in that area. The timing of his run was perfect. It looked like he might have been offside. He wasn't, which really speaks to his understanding and timing there. And then obviously some good composure when he got in behind and was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Maybe not the cleanest finish of all time, but if it hits the back of the net, who gives a crap, right? As long as it hits the back of the net. So I really have been impressed with his resurgence coming back from the injury. And for me, he's a lock to be a part of the Nations League. And I'm kind of curious to see, because there's so much competition in the attacking areas of our team, where Gregg Berhalter and the coaching staff would elect to use him. Could it be out wide? We've seen him do it before. I think he's more effective up top, but obviously a lot of competition up there as well. All right, so some notable fixtures that are coming up, just so everybody knows, circle these on your calendar. We got Fulham and Liverpool happening on Wednesday. That's a League Cup semi-final. So hopefully Tim Ream is healthy. I know he's back in the 18, but we'll see what happens. Anthony Robinson, Liverpool have been interested in maybe signing him, so we'll see what happens there. Feyenoord's taking on PSV in the Dutch Cup. So that should be a very good game. Juve is playing Empoli this upcoming Saturday. AC Milan taking on Bologna. Milan had to come back to win 3-2 in that one. Liverpool, Norwich, FA Cup happening on Sunday. So a lot of big games. All right, we're going to take one of our last breaks of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to talk about Sergiño Dest and some of his comments about not returning to Barcelona if Xavi is there. So a little controversy. Let's get into it right after this. Welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Jesse Marsch and Charlie Davies, and we're going to get into some transfer news, or maybe future transfer news, because Barcelona loanee Sergiño Dest has been recently talking about his future and says he won't come back to the Camp Nou if Xavi is still in charge. And that's quite a statement to make because he's still a loanee. And apparently there's a 10 million valuation on his, if they want to buy him. PSV has the right to buy him after this loan spell is done. And apparently they're interested in activating that, but it's pretty early. And he says, and I quote, only if the situation changes there, and he's referencing Barcelona, Xavi is still there now. So at the moment, no, that will be too difficult. He then went on to add, I think Barcelona, PSV, and I have something to say about that. And right now, it's too early to talk about it. Every player has his goals, and every player wants to play at the top. That also applies to me. In the long term, I'd like to return to the level where I came from, but a season like this, I just have to enjoy it. So my full focus is at PSV at the moment. At the end of the season, we will look further. Maybe I'll stay, maybe I'll go. Malik is in a similar situation with PSV and Bayern Munich, but fortunately, we don't have to resolve anything yet. So, Chuck, I'll come to you actually on this. Thoughts on these comments? Pretty early. We're only in January.
Yeah. I think from my experience, you never want to burn bridges. You have absolutely no idea if Xavi will be the manager or not be the manager, and if Xavi's stance changes on you based on how you've performed and how you've carried yourself and how you've grown, because managers can always change or change their view on you or what they had maybe thought of you because you went and you did exactly what he wanted you to do if on a loan. So, or maybe Xavi becomes an assistant manager somewhere where you want to go. So why, it's just focus on your game. Don't worry about your contract situation. These are things that you don't talk about in the press, in the media. Your contract situation, who you like, who you don't like, you do that behind closed doors. You let your agent handle that stuff. You just always take the high road. And for Sergiño Dest, I'm enjoying my time at PSV. I love the competition and the team that we're playing, and we have a great manager, and I love the system, and I'm just focused on my development. Done. You don't need to bring up Xavi. You don't need to bring up Barcelona. I'm away from Barcelona alone. I'm focused on my job here. The old Bill Belichick, it's just focus on your job, which is playing your best for PSV, playing consistently, staying healthy, and continuing to develop. Done. Leave it at that. You can even shout out your manager for PSV if you felt the need, or your teammates at PSV for helping you thrive and helping you adjust. But that's it. It's that just screams immaturity, just not being able to handle the ups and downs and some things that go your way and they don't go your way in the professional game, and you have to stay even. You can't let it get to you, especially in the media.
Yeah, the line that's interesting to me, outside of him actually singling out Xavi, to your point, that's a bridge that's burned. It sounds like maybe it was already burned, so he's just putting more gasoline on the flames. But the line, in the long term, I would like to return to the level where I came from.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah,
that feels like a bit of a slight to.
Yes, it is.
Whether he intended that or not, it just feels like a slight to the current situation that he's in. Jesse, thoughts on these comments from Sergiño Dest?
Well, at first, I think Chuck's comments are good to great, right?
Here we go.
Yes, I'll take that.
Graduated from average to good. I love that.
I don't have anything to add. I think the way you phrase that is perfect. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, this is Sergiño a little bit, right? He has personality. He has a little bit of an ego, and it's important for him to get certain things off his chest. So that, you're probably right. He probably shouldn't say it, but I'm not surprised. And I mean, obviously he's still young and probably has some things to learn about how to manage all of these situations. But yeah, I think all the things that Charlie said are spot on.
Is that if you saw him available for a team that you were coaching, would you, knowing that he brings a little bit of this, which I think is important, right? I mean, having a little ego, a little confidence in yourself does help on the field for sure. And we've seen plenty of moves.
It's all about balance and
balance. Yeah. Yeah.
If I had a striker who talked that way, it's like, I want my strikers to be confident, but then there's a line that you can't cross, right? Which means you're putting yourself over your teammates. You're now talking to the media and saying, man, it'd be nice to be back at my higher level. And that's a shot at your teammates that they're not at the level that you're at when you're playing at your best, that they haven't touched that level. Like, there's no need to bring that into the equation. All that needs to be said is, I'm enjoying my time here. If you want to talk about Barcelona, say, maybe there's a chance where I go back and I hope I'm impressing Xavi on this loan, or I'm working on the things that Xavi wanted me to work on. Because there's a little bit of acting at play too, because who knows if Xavi's going to be there or not. But at the same time, it's like, why not give yourself the best opportunity just in case Xavi's there, to give him, make him feel like, all right, I'm working on myself to become better so that when I come back, you have a different thought. The thought process is different. Maybe you see me in a different light because I've already talked about working on myself on and off the pitch so that I fit into your plans.
Yeah, if anybody out there listening, watching, wants to chime in, hit us up at CBS Sports Golazo and tag me, Charlie, and Jesse on it as well. What do you think about these comments? And I'm kind of curious.
Jimmy, let me just chime in quickly. I find that when you coach highly talented players, that often they have complex personalities. And I actually think that I often use football as a platform to help the character of the person develop and grow. And I find that if you can capture the ability for that person to really grasp how to be mature, what real work is like, what commitment to something bigger than yourself is, then the football part actually is relatively easy, especially when they're talented, right? So that, for me, if I were to ever coach Sergiño, that would be ultimately what my emphasis would be, is that I would try to form the type of relationship with him where we would have good trust, where we could have real open dialogue about each other and the situation, and how Sergiño could grow within what we're doing with our team and how that could benefit him as a player. And again, understanding the commitment to what it takes to be the absolute best version of yourself and the highest level of footballer that you can possibly become. So that, for me, that has to be the goal. When you're a footballer, you don't have 30 years to work on your overall personal development. You have to get it right relatively early on, by the time you're 25, 26, 27, so that you really understand how to give yourself the real potential to be the best. So yeah, that's what, whoever I think coaches Sergiño, I think that will be a key.
Yeah, I love that. And it makes me have about 3 questions for you, Jesse, but we're going to get to that right after this break. We're almost to the finish line, so this is our last one, but I think you like this question, so don't go anywhere. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Call It What You Want. I'm Jimmy with Chuck and Jesse. And Jesse, I do have a question for you based on what you said there at the very end about Sergiño Dest, and how you wanted to work with him and work with his character. I feel like what could happen is such a high pressure situation, as it is at the highest levels that you've coached at in particular. Do you have the time to do that? Because it's so results oriented. How do you figure out a way to balance trying to get to know the human, but also, like, I need to quickly figure that out and establish this trust because we need to get results
and you got
now. Otherwise,
you got 17 other players.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, oh, are you going to do that with 17 other players? It's like,
yeah.
The answer is yes. Chuck, for me, the answer is yes.
I've got popcorn on, right? Eating popcorn.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to take on the task of coaching a team, at least this is the way I think of it. It's a holistic challenge to me, and it's about maximizing the potential of every single player that you have within your umbrella, right? So you say 17 other players, it's usually 23 to 25 squad players, and then even another 5 to 10 fringe players that are either with the second team or the academy that are part of the first team. So it takes a lot of time. Like, I think I've told you guys maybe about this, but in Germany, they say there's 2 types of leadership. There's leading from fear and leading from convincing. A lot of coaches lead from fear, but they say that fear has a quicker effect, but it's shorter lasting. Whereas convincing takes more time and more energy, but it's more of a long lasting effect. And so I don't look at it as convincing, but I do look at it as a total investment in the person in every possible way. And listen, obviously there's categories. If you're older and you're a leader, there's a different kind of investment in the relationship for your captain types, for your leadership types. for the guys that have been around and what the expectation is for them and the allowance for them to make mistakes versus the young players and now their understanding of what it takes and what commitment means and what selflessness means and how to help them grow. So, and there's everything in between. And then there's culturally factors. Where are they from? How was their family life? There's all kinds of things that can contribute to the makeup of how people ultimately handle things when they're difficult. And that's what you're trying to get to the core of, is you want to try to bring out the absolute best in each person that you work with, so that when the games are really tough, it makes a difference and it helps you win.
We're going to call it a show. We have personal life too. And so does everybody watching and listening. This has been a fantastic broadcast and show and platform to really get into it. And I appreciate you, Jesse, for giving us so much insight into the inner workings of what it means to coach at the highest levels. So that is very, very cool. Chuku, not so much, but we appreciate your mahogany behind you, Chuku. But that's it. So thank you again for listening and watching, and enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you very, very soon. Later.